All right, Sarah, we are now officially live.
That's fabulous.
In about 1 minute, I imagine a few people start to join us.
Yeah.
I will keep an eye on the chat as well.
Okay, thank you.
And Megan, I made you a co-host just in case someone pops into the meeting and I don't notice because I'm looking at YouTube. So just keep that in mind. And we're up to 9 people watching. So yeah, we're
getting there.
Just about ready to begin.
Okay. Let me know, Jason, when you think we have a critical mass.
I think when it's 8:30, if you want to get started, folks can always rewind.
Okay. Jason, I don't see myself. I see you, but I don't see me.
Hello? We are, yeah. Okay, just a minute.
Good morning, everybody. As you're arriving, we're just going to wait a few minutes for a few more people to come on for our PD on family engagement this morning. We'll start in a minute or two.
All right, Sarah, hold on just 1 second while we make sure we're all set up.
Jason, I think I might be seeing you because you're the host of the YouTube. Could that be it?
Okay, okay.
You don't see the Zoom participants anymore, Sarah? You don't see us? You don't see yourself?
When I go into speaker view, I don't see me speaking. I see you right now, but I don't see me. Do you see me on the screen?
I see you.
You see me? Okay.
Yes, I think because you're the host, you won't see yourself as big, but it will be
That
big.
actually is wonderful.
Yeah,
I see you, Sarah, as well.
Well, we all need the mirror, right?
Whoops. Okay. All right. Got it.
So Sarah, just 1 second, Sarah. So here's what we're going to do. Everyone in the Zoom meeting, make sure you're muted. And that way it'll be Sarah who we see. And Sarah, I think we're going to wait a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Till we have a little bit more of a critical mass. So give it, I think, 2 more minutes.
Okay.
And then everyone else mute. All right, Sarah, I think we're good to go.
Great, wonderful. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Professional Development this morning that focuses on remote learning partnerships, engaging with families to support student learning. For those who don't know me, I am Sarah Davila. I am the Director of English Learner Education for the district, and I'm also the District Administrator for Family and Community Partnerships. And that work brings me to the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative, which is our family engagement department for the school district. This presentation, this workshop really that was put together by a really large team of wonderful educators crossing the SFLC to the district instructional leadership team and the tech team. It's been an amazing partnership working together. There's so many of us that each presenter will introduce themselves when they have their opportunity to present important information to you. I'm going to start by introducing our goals. Whoopsie, sorry. Our goals for today. We hope that this professional development will help educators know about resources that are available to families, know how to use tools to communicate with families, recognize that there is no typical family in the Somerville School District, that you will learn from your own and other educators, both their struggles and their successes and best practices. By the end of this morning, we are hoping that you will be comfortable and confident to engage with families in remote learning, that you will resist making assumptions about families, that you will create culturally responsive remote learning spaces. You will have the tools to do that, and that you will be able to build and sustain relationships with families.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Boston Davis. I'm the Director for Equity and Excellence in our schools, and I'm really excited to be here this morning with this lovely group of people. So I'm just going to go over the agenda quickly for today. We have 3 parts of this session that we're hoping to engage in together. The first is going to be the first hour in which we'll build some common knowledge. We'll do that by watching a video to kind of get us all thinking on the same page. And then we're going to review some data that we received from families. We're going to introduce a framework called the 3 R's of family engagement. And we're going to learn about all the resources that we have to support family engagement. During the second hour, then there's going to be a break for you. And then in the second hour, we're going to have a panel. So there will be a group of educators and liaisons sharing their struggles and success stories that we can kind of learn in together. And then we're also going to have an opportunity to learn about some family engagement online tools. And then finally, in the third hour, which is the 10:30 to 11:30 section on your own individual agendas that says PD application independent work time. That's a time for you to apply what you've taken away from today's session. And also there will be SFLC office hours. And there's a link in the agenda that Karen sent out with that information as well.
Thank you, Jess. Another thing that we want to introduce to you today is an idea for making remote learning spaces more interactive. And we didn't know how we could make this mode of our learning to be as interactive as we would like to be. So we came up with this idea of turn and text. So you will need to have your cell phone near you throughout the first 2 hours of the session. And we would like you to take a minute to identify a colleague or two that you would be able to text with after we've given a reflection question for you. There will be a couple opportunities for you to reflect and share ideas with a colleague in this remote learning space. So I'm just going to give a minute. I know you know who you're most connected to, who you want to chat with this morning. So take a minute just to text that person and say, hey, will you be my turn and text partner? Okay, I hope you found somebody or a couple of people. We are going to practice the turn and text right away. And we're going to do it as reflecting on a video. And in this video, children and parents are interviewing each other about their experiences so far in online home learning. Okay, so before we play the video, before watching, think to yourself, what are the things you might expect to hear from the family interviews? And I will go ahead and play.
Keep the camera straight.
Sophie, you are shaking the table.
How are you feeling today, Mom?
Feeling a little stressed out. Things are kind of crazy, and I'm trying to keep a schedule, but you guys don't really make it that easy.
It's definitely overwhelming a little bit. There's a lot more energy in the house, a lot more mess in the house, and a lot more demands on Mommy's time.
I've been feeling kind of grumpy most days.
What's happening with the economy and the lack of a steady paycheck kind of makes me feel a little bit anxious.
One moment you're hopeful and one moment you're sad. I'm feeling okay.
Can you tell me how are you feeling?
Well, I feel kind of angry that the coronavirus closed a lot of things.
Pretty happy. I feel like a lot of time was wasted in school.
Feels good and new. Happy and sad at the same time.
It's just a lot going on with having to keep up with schoolwork.
I'm still processing it. Usually I'm at school with all my friends, and now I'm at home with only one other kid. And you teach me differently than my teacher does. What has been hard about teaching me at home?
Oh, which day of the week are we talking about? The hardest part is patience.
Just trying to keep track of everything that you're supposed to be doing. Your school keeps sending us so many different suggested activities.
When you start to get bored with what we're working on right now, I don't know how to come up with things to help you learn the next steps.
I'm relying on you both to be able to handle this new situation because you're 17.
A toddler and a preschooler and a first grader with all different needs.
Well, not only am I teaching you, but I'm also teaching your brother. And since I'm a teacher, I also have to help other teachers and all the 740 some students that are in our building, since I'm the technology integration specialist.
What kinds of lessons do you wish I teach you more of?
I wish you taught me more of math because we haven't done math a lot. Probably, I don't know, maybe math? Math. More math. Maybe a little more science too. More reading and writing and science and social studies and math.
Okay.
Basically
So, everything?
Yeah.
What do you miss most about school?
My friends and my teacher. I miss all my friends. My friends, my teacher, all the things that I'm learning. My teacher, Miss Parr, because she's very nice and I miss my friends. So I really miss having the same routine every day, the same thing every day, the same place that I sit every day. Because now I'm basically just roaming around the house, not knowing what to do. What is something you wish you knew before this?
Something I wish I knew before this, just how organized you have to be a homeschooling mom.
I wish I'd known more about what you guys do in school so that it would be easier to kind of help you guys through whatever you need to work on right now.
I wish that for you and for me both, we had some structure in place.
Okay, what do you like about learning at home?
I like that I get to spend much more time on the computer.
I just like that I can go at my own pace.
And I like the way that sometimes we both learn new things. I like that it's less hard than school.
Well, I would say learning is a stretch. I like that we're being given more free time.
I mean, it's also kind of more easier to get a better grade because you can look up the answers. What has been fun?
It's been really fun to do learning in different kinds of ways, like playing Monopoly to practice math.
Planning fun things like a day with a theme. Like today we decided we'll have an ocean themed day. So we'll be watching a Netflix documentary about the ocean.
So I enjoy our recess moments because that's kind of when we get to let go and just enjoy being with each other.
You know, that I get to see you do different things.
Just getting to see how your minds work and how you create things and think about things is really cool.
Trouble finding my off button here. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do the turn in text right now with these questions to have in mind. Text your partner, what did you recognize as true from your own experience, either as a parent or educator? And maybe was there anything that surprised you? And we'll just give 2 minutes for you to go ahead and do that. Okay, great. I'm going to turn it to Kenya now, please.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Kenya Avant Ransom. I am the data coordinator for the District of Somerville, and welcome this morning to our Family Engagement PD. It's great to have you all here with us this morning. I'm going to talk a little bit about data in the context of family engagement and looking specifically at a couple of surveys that we put out this past spring as well as this summer. So I'll be sharing those results with you. On this first slide, you'll see that remote learning has had some or presented some challenges for families, whereas about 1/3 of our families are saying that the most difficult part of remote learning has been balancing their own work with their child's learning while at home. About 1/3 as well say that it's difficult to keep track of the assignments for their students, and that there that there are too many platforms to keep track of. And so this sort of highlights the difficulty of managing all of the different pieces of their child's learning while at home. And if there are multiple children in the home, the feedback has been that that's even more difficult to manage. About half of our survey respondents were most concerned about either their own health or the health of their families and or physical safety. And then another third were most concerned about job security. So from these data, overall, it just paints a picture that families have jumped into the throes of remote learning and they're all in it, but it doesn't come without its share of stressors and challenges, and the need to sort of adjust during these times. So this next slide shows testimonials that were collected as part of the Somerville Cares Fund process. So the Somerville Cares Fund supports families in Somerville with basic needs support or housing assistance. And part of this process also involved getting feedback from family members about their experiences during the school closure and with with COVID-19. And so I'm going to turn it over to a couple of my co-presenters to read some of these testimonials and share them with you. So I'm not sure who has the first.
It's me, and I didn't unmute. I'm sorry. Classic mistake. I work and live in a rented room with my 2 daughters. I don't have any way of paying the rent, and I'm desperate to the point of attempting suicide. I work with a group cleaning houses in Somerville, but due to the virus, they've canceled and I'm without work. My telephone has been cut off. If you need to speak to me, send me an email. I can still access that.
Thank you, Megan. And the second?
We have no income and we are desperate.
And the third quote? I will go ahead and read this one if no one's ready. Before COVID-19, I had contracts with cleaning services I did through Somerville, Austin, Brighton, and Cambridge. Due to COVID-19, all my clients have stopped services due to the virus.
Before I was a house cleaner, but with COVID-19, I'm without work and living on the help of friends.
So as we can see from those quotes, the pandemic has really put families, some of our families into sort of a tailspin as far as making ends meet and getting basic needs met. The next few slides I'm going to go over, I'm going to just present them at a very high level, but they again present the results of the most recent family survey. This first question just asks, how comfortable are you helping with your child's work? And somewhere around 40% of families who responded said that helping with work is easy and just a little bit stressful. And that, you know, the responses run the gamut from easy and not stressful at all to easy and a little stressful, and I don't know how to teach and so it's stressful, or I don't know how to teach and so I don't help. And you see our families are sort of falling all over in all of these different buckets. So there's a lot of diversity and variety in experience. The next question asked what tools would be most useful to help your child with learning at home? And again, here, most of the parents or the parent meeting received the majority of responses here for this question. So just family members, parents, caregivers wanting to have direct communication with educators in the district and seeing that as a very useful way to then be able to support their child at home with remote learning. This next slide and responses asked about, do you assign additional work at home for your child? And you'll see here approximately 45% of respondents said, no, I don't assign additional work. I only expect my child to do the work that their teacher is assigning or has assigned. And you'll also see, however, that approximately 37% of respondents said, yes, I give them work in addition to the work that their teachers are assigning. And what I take away from this slide is that, again, there's real diversity in the experience that students are having at home, as well as the experience and what families are doing at home to support their children. And so some are just doing what we're providing as educators, and then others are exploring additional options or doing alternative assignments. And then I believe finally, but I may be misspeaking, where does the most helpful information come from the school district? And there are a lot of options here: district or school-wide emails, other parents, the principal or assistant principal, a specialist, special educator, or the classroom teacher. And you can see here that we have approximately 44% of respondents who said, you know, by far, the information that I receive is coming directly from my classroom teacher. And what I think this highlights is that relationship between classroom teacher and families, parents, caregivers, guardians is really, really important. And you all are an essential link from the household to the school. Okay, so not finally, but here's another slide. And the question on the survey asked about family members' preferred communication channels. And the majority, 51%, prefer to get their information through email. But that there also is a lot of diversity in the other 49%, where families are opting for a variety of options such as text or a phone call, Class Dojo, the website, or other channels. So I think the takeaway from this slide is that there is no one approach to communication that fits all families. It's really just knowing the community of learners that you have in front of you and getting to know the family situation and who you're interacting with, to know the best way to reach out and the best way to then support and provide supports for our families. Okay, so I have a lot of slides here. So this last question, I threw it in there because I think it is important just to get context on what's been happening with students and in the context of families during the school closure as well as the COVID pandemic. And this question just asks about, has there been a change in your relationship with your child or children since the schools have closed? And you'll see that about 40% says we're closer now and we spend more time together, sort of echoing some of the messages we saw in the video. And then approximately 30% saying our relationship is the same as before. But then there are all the other ones, right? So again, this idea of variation, of not making those assumptions and really being in a place where we can both give information to and also be in a place to receive information and context and change our ideas about the families and the parents that we're working and communicating with. So just being open to understanding where our families are coming from and realizing that they're all in different places.
Thank you, Kenya.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on this slide here because we found a framework that we think really beautifully captures what we can understand and what we can do about all of this that we know about the diverse experience of students and families with remote learning. And this is a framework called the 3 R's of family engagement during the COVID pandemic. It is created by an organization called Confianza, and Confianza is dedicated to the best practices for multilingual learners, for multilingual learner success. We see this COVID pandemic as one of two because we also know the effects of COVID-19 are experienced differently because among different members of our community because of the historical legacy of systemic racism that our children and our families experience every day. We really like these 3 R's. I think they help us put our work into very concrete and maybe challenging areas that we need to support each other to do the best work with. Relationships, resources, and response. So for relationships, we draw on an idea of cultural reciprocity to build authentic relationships. And this idea is that a relationship has 2 parties, 2 or more parties, but 2 parties. And that each person in a relationship needs to come and examine their own cultural identity, their own values, their own affinities, and they need to bring their authentic selves, their whole selves, into a relationship. And this is this idea of a 2-way relationship, but it takes efforts on both parts. We know that that relationships take time. There's a period of building trust, and we need to maintain that trust. There needs to be an openness, and there needs to be consistent and culturally responsive communication. And communication needs to, the purpose of communication is to build active listening and understanding. So we've provided another link for you here as communication. Culturally responsive communication is one of the critical practices for anti-bias education. So this link will take you to teaching tolerance in some ways to explore how you can build that responsive communication. The second R is around resources. In our next part of our agenda, we're going to be exploring some of these. And the resources that we think are critical are tech access and digital literacy, resources to basic needs like food, clothing, rental assistance. We heard from families about the economic stresses that they are experiencing. And then there's social emotional wellness. And if these resources aren't shared and built and people don't have access to them, we truly don't believe that we can achieve the equity that our district has held as a value and an action that we will take this year. So the sharing of resources and the building of resources is critical for family engagement as a tool towards equity. The last R is response. And this is framed in a strength-based way that we need to acknowledge and build from family funds of knowledge. We can't make assumptions about what families can and cannot do. And I think there are a couple of lessons learned about family strengths that we've experienced this spring and over the summer. We know that actually many of our families can access online communication very easily if we use telephone apps. WhatsApp is a wonderful tool, and our families are very skilled at getting and sharing information through that tool. And that's a fund of knowledge. We also know that in our households, in our homes, our families are teaching about racial identity and about inequities. And they are teaching their children about how to overcome injustices. That's another fund of knowledge that we need to recognize. Also in our response, the SFLC very carefully has built upon, and there's a link to this is Karen Mapp's work, the dual capacity framework, recognizing that parents, families are the primary decision makers for their children. We work towards what we call partnership schools. So we need to build our own capacity in responding authentically with our families, as well as helping our families build their capacity to engage with us. So with all of this in mind, these 3 R's of family engagement, here's another moment for you to turn and text. We really want you to have some time to process so far before you get information. So thinking about the 3 R's, what area is your strength? Why is that your strength? And in which areas would you like to grow? Do you want to work on relationships? Do you want to know more about resources? Do you want to think about how you can respond to the needs? Knowing that you will have some time later this morning to work on family engagement planning, please take a minute to text a partner. What is the area of strength for you, and where would you like to grow? And we'll pause for 3 minutes.
Sarah, can I ask you to remind the group of the 3 R's for those who may have forgotten?
Yes, it's relationships, resources, and response. Thank you, Kenya. Okay, I hope people had a moment to reflect and to share some thoughts with their turn and text partners. And now I'm going to turn it to Megan.
Thanks, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Megan Bouchard. I'm the Family and Community Liaison Program Coordinator with the SFLC. I'm going to be talking about the second R, resources. What are the current supports for families in the COVID-19 pandemic and the pandemic of systemic racism? We'll hear a little bit about the SFLC this morning. And for those of you who are new to the district or need a reminder, we are the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative. We're the Family and Community Engagement Department of the public schools. This year, we'll be continuing our monthly calendar to all of you, so you know what events and opportunities for engagement are out there for families. The September version was emailed this morning, and it's an overview of our core programs and services, including information on our shift to remote programming and our staff points of contact. You can see a screenshot of it here, and I hope you take a moment today at some point to have a look at it. We're going to be hearing about the work of the Immigrant Services Unit, which is a cross-sector team of city, schools, and community partners working in collaboration during this time. We'll also be hearing about multilingual services and from representatives from our partners in parent leadership and engagement from the LPAC, the CPAC, and the PTA, PTSA. This is a visual of what our work at the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative looks like. Most of the staff is centered at the Cummings building, and we're Somerville's hub for comprehensive family and community engagement, support, and empowerment from birth to adulthood. And we obviously work closely with staff in the schools and our school-based colleagues, the liaisons. And our work breaks down into 4 focus areas: prenatal to early childhood services and supports, our student enrollment and registration team, our family engagement and empowerment linked to learning, and our community partnerships and wraparound services. For today, we're going to especially highlight the last 2 focus areas and ask you to think about what supports you may need as an educator and reaching out to all families in our multilingual communities to best support student learning and well-being. Next slide, Sarah. I'm going to share our Somerville Family Learning Collaborative mission, but before I do, just a quick shout out to Alicia and Jack and the guiding principles for remote learning that they so effectively shared on Tuesday. The guiding principles so easily apply to the work of engaging families as well: community, connection, clear communication, and access. Besides the 3 R's, I think this is what the work of the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative is all about. The mission is, the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative enhances the capacity of families and schools to support their children's learning and well-being by collaborating with community partners and promoting welcoming, responsive schools and programs. It's a mission that has community connection and equitable access at its core, and we are here to partner with you. Hopefully you have all met either in person or virtually your school-based liaison. If you have not yet worked with your school's SFLC liaison, or if you're at the high school, your partners at the Welcome Center, please reach out. They are a fabulous group of people who work so hard on behalf of our schools and families, and I'm thankful for them and their work every day. Some ways liaisons can help support your work this year: we have always and will continue to welcome all families in the school communities. We work to facilitate homeschool communication and build trusting relationships with families. We support families in engaging further in their children's education, whether that's helping them get internet or a Chromebook or understanding Class Dojo, whatever it may be. And also we provide information and connect both families and staff to school and city programs, services, community resources, programs like the Somerville Backpack Program, our English classes, and all of our SFLC programs, as well as city supports. Francia.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Francia Reyes. I work at SFLC as well. I'm the basic needs and homeless liaison of the Somerville Public School, and I'm very glad to be here with all of you. And I want to take the time to say thanks to all teachers and school staff for the unconditional support for all the students and their families during these difficult times. This support has been beyond the educational matters. Many of you has been helping families emotionally and in getting access to basic resources by volunteering on distribution and delivery of food, diapers, masks, educational material, and other emergency items for families affected economically during this pandemic. Basic needs support is available to assist vulnerable and low-income students and their families. We are committed to the academic success for our students, and we understand that the basic needs have a direct impact on the well-being and success of our students. Basic needs can include food, clothes, housing, wellness, and other important services. We provide or connect families with a comprehensive wraparound services and engage in authentic collaborative partnership with our community organization and cities agency to ensure the comprehensive services to families. In the homeless responsibilities that I have, all the districts has a homeless liaison. That is because the McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Assistance Act. This program works to ensure the enrollment, attendance, and the opportunity to success in the school for homeless children, youth, and children in foster care. Homeless children and youth are individuals who lack of fixed or regular and adequate nighttime residences. McKinney-Vento Homeless Education. This program is focused to give all the support to families who are in these kind of categories. Also, I want to talk a little more about that Megan said about the ISU. Since March, the SFLC has been working in close partnership with the City of Somerville Immigrant Services Unit, the ISU, cross-sector, the group of the city and school staff working to support our vulnerable residents and families. We have been helping more than 500 families, assisting on the primary issues of concern of facing the household, like a housing stability for rental assistance, landlord issues, homelessness, also legal advice or assistance about medical needs, mental health services, and also about school-related issues like communicating with teachers, internet access to remote learning, and also we are supporting families for financial assistance like a SNAP, unemployment benefits, or Somerville Care Fund. We in these families that we were working, there are more than 250 students that belong to the Somerville Public School. And many of them speak different language, and we are able to speak with them in the language they speak at home. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maura Quiroz. I am the Multilingual Services Coordinator. I'm here to present you some tools to connect with your families whose English is not the first language. First, I want to congratulate you all for the hard work during quarantine, connecting families in general, and connecting with families whose English not the first language whenever it was possible. So we are here, Multilingual Services Office is here to help you to connect with families in other languages. During quarantine, principals were encouraged to identify in their schools, in their own schools, their multilingual staff. Many of you made yourself available to support when contacting a family, and we appreciate that. This year, we're working hard to robust the school team, multilingual school team, so you can work throughout the year. So anytime you need to contact a family whose English is not their first language, contact your principal. He might direct you to who in the school can help you. Your school-based liaison will help you to connect as well. She might or might not help you with the language, but definitely will point you out with who you can contact with. Then after your principal tells you who to contact, and if you don't have anyone in the school who can help you, then you contact Multilingual Services. You can see the link to a request form. It's very, very simple to fill it out. And I wish we don't have that extra step for you, but it helps us to keep track of the request. So it's for your own benefit that we need to fill it out, that form, and it's very quick. You send it directly to me, to mquiroz at K-12, and always CC your principal, because he or she needs to know that the requests have been made, and for budget reasons, and he or she needs to know what's going on regarding the request for future funding as well. We will work on your request ASAP. we will provide you either with an interpreter over the phone or over Zoom or the platform you request. And for translations, the only thing we request is no more than 2 pages, but we have a pretty much good turnaround if it's less than 2 pages. And also you need to contact your principal to request in the email. The form is, the request form is the same. So our 3 targeted languages are Spanish, Portuguese, Haitian Creole, and some of our low incident languages are Nepali, Arabic, Mandarin, Chinese. So we have those resources for you. Please do not hesitate, contact families. We are here to help, and send out the request and we will make it work as much as we can, of course, but we will make it work for you and honor that effort of contacted families whose English is not their first language.
Tanti, are you here?
I think she's muted. Yes, she's still muted. Oh, there you go,
Tanti.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Good morning, my name is Tanti. I am a parent leader. Today, I would like to talk to you about LPAC and Parent English Class. LPAC is a group of parents whose children are learning English in Somerville Public School. We work together to learn more about English learner programs in the school and how we can better support our children learning. We also make suggestions to the district about how to improve. So LPAC is a place where parents learn the school system. It provides important information to immigrant parents about different programs in the school, which are very different from what most of us are used to come where we came from. LPAC is a link between parent and the school. So its job is to motivate parents to get involved in their children's education by encouraging them to communicate with the school, give their point of view, and vice versa. So LPAC help parents through English class but even if they are not part of English class. So from my personal experience, when I first came here, I didn't speak English, let alone understand the school system. Because of LPAC class, English class, and because of English class and LPAC, I was able to get involved in my children's education, who at the time were struggling with homework. So because of my involvement, my daughter ended up being honor student in a high school. Thank you.
Hello.
I think you're still on mute, Marilu. No, I can hear.
No, it's Michelle.
Oh, hi, can you hear me? Oh, great. Okay. Hi, I'm Michelle Lippens. I'm the co-director of the CPAC. I want to tell everyone that the Somerville CPAC is a volunteer organization run by parents that is legally required of each school in Massachusetts. Each district must each district offers membership to all parents and guardians of eligible special education students and other interested parties. So our mission is to offer supports for parents of all children with disabilities in the community and assist with communication between parents, staff, and administration. We can also serve as a resource for families who are new to the special education process and need more support to navigate this new territory. For example, families are welcome to reach out to us to learn more about the special education process and understanding their child's IEP or 504. They can build a network with parents who share similar experiences. They can learn about resources available to our community that inspires acceptance and inclusion of children with all types of special needs. We offer throughout the school year several workshops and presentations that hopefully will be of value to you and definitely the families you support. For example, in the upcoming 2020-21 school year, workshops we include topics such as executive functioning, ADHD, early childhood education, dyslexia, and this is just to name a few. If you would like to be involved or have ideas for how the CPAC can best serve you and your students, please connect with us through our email, somervilleparentstogether@gmail.com. And we also have Lucienne DiToledo, who is another co-director for the CPAC, as well as Leonore Hillestrom. She's our secretary. And I just want to end with, as a fellow educator in the name of CPAC, we want to extend our utmost respect and thank you for all you do. You make a difference every day in the lives of our future change makers, and we are so happy to continue to sing your praises and communicate district-wide the hard work you do every day, in addition to our advocacy to make positive systemic change at a district level for all families of students with special needs. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Lou. I'm Carrie Sterniolo. Can you hear me, Megan?
Yep, you got this, Mary Lou.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I'm here this morning, thrilled to be here to represent the PTA and the PTSA, which stands for Parent Teacher Student Association up at Somerville High School. On behalf of all the officers throughout the school district and at your schools, I just want to tell you a little bit about PTA, and I will read from here. It says, during school closure, PTA units in various schools actively partnered with school staff, administration, and SFLC liaisons to help address community needs. We celebrated our Somerville High School seniors during a very difficult time. We supported families experiencing food insecurity. We worked with local businesses like Daddy Jones, the Dark Horse Tavern, many others to help meet families' needs. And we gathered and helped to distribute T-Mobile gift cards to some of our students up at Somerville High School to help them stay connected during this time. PTAs would like to continue building community and making connections with all of you. Many units have reached out to help support communication to families. PTAs at your schools have email groups, Facebook groups, and also we are hoping to coordinate room parents at all our schools. And right now our biggest challenge is to find a way to expand membership in the remote setting. So that is something we are working on. Always feel free to contact me. My email address is below at msterniolo@K12. And thank you so much for letting us be here today. Thank you.
Kenya, I think you're going to introduce our break for us.
I am. And before I do so, I did have a chance to look at the YouTube chat thread, and I did want to address a couple of questions that folks had. One was around the survey and whether or not it was representative of Somerville as a whole. And I wanted to speak to that point. So we administered the first survey in 2 rounds, sort of 2 waves is what we were calling them. So wave 1 was very intentionally developed so that the folks who received the survey were representative of the Somerville population. We did it based on students, but based on income, based on school, based on gender, race, so all of those different demographic variables. And so that first wave of survey data was very much representative. In an effort not to exclude anyone in our community from being able to contribute their feedback, there was a wave 2 where all of the surveys went out to every other family. So the data that I shared with you today was looking at that wave 1, the first wave of responses that were more representative, not perfectly representative, but more representative of the Somerville population at large, meaning that we had a higher percentage of respondents sending us feedback in a language other than English, meaning that we had more respondents who were from low-income backgrounds who responded to the survey. And this was also due to a coordinated effort of outreach, both partnering with the SFLC as well as with school principals who we know are more likely to get responses from families. And so those efforts were made. The second thing I wanted to address was just to clarify that the Somerville Cares Fund was separate from and distinct from the survey that went out to families. So the Somerville Cares quotes that I shared with you were collected at an individual level. So there wasn't this level of anonymity. I know some of you were concerned about our families, and rightly so. So those families we have been in contact with them, members of the SFLC, and we have provided support. So that said, is there anything that you would like to add to that, Sarah?
No, that's perfect. Thank you, Kenya.
Okay, great. I think so. In introducing the break, I would just remind everyone that the main takeaway we want you to get from this portion of our PD is just this idea that all of our families are different. They're in different places. We're in different places. And the only way that we're going to be able to build and sustain an effective partnership is if we're all willing to come together, bring our full selves, be open to understanding who our families are, and really working together collaboratively. There are lots of resources available to you all as you do this work. I had a chance this morning to look at the kid superintendent video, and it was just great. And I think the message is, hang in there. We're all learning. We're going to get through it. We're working together. All these folks here are partners in this work, and onwards and upwards. So now we have a break.
Yes. For why don't we say a 5-minute break?
5-minute break.
5-minute break, and we'll come back and we'll have a wonderful panel of educators sharing their work, their efforts towards family engagement in remote learning. And we also have a section on tools, communication tools, multilingual communication tools, before you have that 3rd hour for applying what you're thinking about. So enjoy your break for 5 minutes, and we'll be ready to go with the panel. We're going to put up an image. It's an infographic that you can take a look at during your break, but please do stretch and be ready to come back for more. See you in 5 minutes. Thanks.
Hi, Jeff.
Yes, and we are still live. So if you want to call me, you can. Okay.
Okay.
Two ways. That's a joke.
Okay, everyone, I think we should just go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Hi again, I'm Jess, and I'm really excited to be here right now, joined by some educators and liaisons who are going to talk a little bit about their successes and challenges when engaging with families remotely. So we have a wide range of folks from all the way from the CAP up to the high school and everywhere in between. So what I'll do is I'm going to, during this time, ask each person to speak, and when they do, they will introduce themselves, they'll say their name, where their school, and their role. And they're all, at that time, they'll share some successes and challenges. I'm gonna encourage our panelists to respond to one another. So feel free, if I don't say your name, feel free to just jump in and say, actually, that connects to my own experience. And we'll go from there. So as a reminder, if you're not on the panel discussion, make sure your camera's off and you're on mute. And if you are on the panel discussion, make sure your camera's on. And when it's time to talk, then you can unmute yourself. Okay? All right. So let's get started. I'm going to start with, I have my list of folks here and I'm looking at you all on Zoom. So I'm going to start and thinking about our youngest learners and thinking about the CAP. Emily, would it be okay if we kick it over to you to get started?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Emily Fishman. I'm a speech language therapist at the Capuano. Somewhere around a third or so of my caseload isn't able to engage with online instruction pretty much at all due to their age and their support needs. In the spring, I used mostly email to communicate with these families, and most of them didn't write back more than once. So by May, I was frustrated and more just really despairing about how the kids who need speech most weren't able to get it. In the summer, with a smaller caseload, I was able to implement some caregiver coaching, capitalizing on the home-based nature of what we have now instead of fighting against how it isn't like school. The adult would set up the computer facing the play area or the kitchen counter if they were cooking, or the laundry room, it really didn't matter. And I would sort of interrupt them as they interacted and suggest opportunities to tempt communication, give them feedback for the next time they engage with a similar activity. I felt like I was able to help these families locate their own ability to teach the kids rather than hand over control to the professionals. And intervention like that allows more naturalistic interaction and to happen throughout the day rather than a contrived situation in my office or in a session that I'm leading online. I was only able to implement this with a handful of families and because my caseload was small in the summer, but I'm looking forward to thinking more about how that could work or be carried over during the school year.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Really, really amazing to think about how we're handing over, our expertise and how we're working with families to make sure that they're able to work with their students and they are their child's first teacher. So that was really great to hear. Thanks, Emily. I'm going to pass it now to Hannah if you'd like to get started and share a little bit about your experience.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Hannah D'Souza, and I teach newcomer immigrant students at the 3rd grade level. So for me, communication and engagement with families has always been central to ensuring a successful school experience for my students. Oftentimes, the first day that they get dropped off as a newcomer by their parent or guardian to my classroom door might be the only time that I see them face to face the entire year because of the nature of either where they live in the city or work schedules. So the more, a basic idea of what a school communication looks like in terms of communicating with parents during the normal school year, not even remote, has always been very different for our program. And so I always try to make a really strong connection on day one. The first thing, just welcoming them and getting a phone number and that I can reliably contact them with, and then, you know, having an authentic conversation about how they're comfortable communicating with me. And that is different for every family. As Kenya was saying, everybody's in a different place, and each family has diverse needs within the newcomer community. So with barriers, you know, being the physical location of maybe where they live and they're bussed in, or that they don't see their own parent until, you know, very late at night. I've had to work through these obstacles, you know, since day one. So two-way communication and consistency is key, making myself available to them. And I usually do that using WhatsApp because I can send a voice message. There's also varying levels of literacy among the families that I work with, and that's a really great communication tool, that I can send a voice message in their native language and they can answer it, listen to it at their convenience. A lot of times in workplaces, you cannot use your phone. You can get in trouble for that. So, you know, at home, at a time that's convenient for them, they can listen to it and get back to me. And usually that's the best way of communication. But I would say I really strive to, you know, create a welcoming environment and make myself available. And a lot of times, I mean, a lot of work in the beginning, building a very strong relationship pays off so hugely in the end. So I had 100% engagement during remote learning, most of which was just making sure that I could almost translate all of the things that were happening in the community, because they were coming by, you know, flyers and emails and messages, and making sure that each one of my families had the information in a way that they could understand.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for all that you did and we'll continue to do with our families remotely. I'm wondering if anybody feels like they can pick up off of what Hannah shared. Yeah, Mara.
Yeah, I think I can pick up because it's very related of what you were saying, Hannah, and thank you so much for being so proactive. We know you're very autonomous on your language because you speak other language, but always feel free to reach out to us to support, okay? You don't have everything, you don't have to do everything yourself, but we thank you. So I'm going to talk again. I'm Maura Quiroz. I am the Multilingual Services Coordinator. Again, our main goal is to support you and families to better communication. And I want to share the multilingual town halls we hosted during the summer, late summer, to inform families. I personally learned a lot. I have been working with families for the last 7 years. And I started with the assumption of, oh, people won't connect. They don't know how to use Zoom. They don't know how to use Dojo. They don't know how to use all these platforms. And I was totally wrong. People connected. If you have read a little bit of family engagement, we always say meet families where they are. And we literally meet the families where they were. Walking their dogs, baking tortillas at home, in their kitchen, in their living room, commuting, driving. They did connect, and it was so successful. 100 and plus participants, 200 and plus participants. The last meeting, the last parent meeting that we had at the East, it was very challenging because a lot of people came. And again, we are learning as well. But in terms of attendance, it was very successful. And believe it or not, I dare to say that families have been waiting for this kind of communication. I started my work with families as a liaison at Capuano. I loved my years there. I learned so much. And families used to ask me, oh, why can I give my cell phone to the teacher? Why the teacher don't text me? Oh, I sent her a friend request on Facebook. I want to be connected with her. And now it's the time. I'm not saying you have to be connected with them in social media, but text is really good for families, as we saw in the slides. And pretty much they're very tech savvy. Even if they are they have limitations, literacy limitations in their own language, they are super tech savvy. Why? Because we are from abroad. We are used to have personal contact with our own families abroad. I am originally from El Salvador, and I know about all this way of communication, Telegram, WhatsApp, everything. So they are ready to do this. And finally, I think it's a matter of to navigate this system and to navigate another culture, we have closed the barrier of having to come physically to the school, being in an auditorium that is so big and overwhelmed because we don't have these beautiful schools in Central America, and have something to get translations on the spot or interpretation on the spot. So with one click, we are connecting with families. And for me, it's so exciting and so really seeing the positive aspect of these challenging times. I assure your families are waiting for you to connect, and let them lead you. Let them lead you, if it's a text, if it's a phone call, or they might even have somebody at home who can help them to translate for you or to interpret it for you. So I want for you to feel confident, for you to be comfortable, because our families so appreciate when we do the effort. And again, Multilingual Services is here to connect as well, to help you to connect.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That was really helpful to hear, and I appreciate the building off of Hannah's initial points. So I would like to take it up to the high school at this point. We have a couple of high school educators with us, and Ada and Amber, I'd love if you both want to share, because engagement looks different. Family engagement looks different with high schoolers. So I'd love to hear from you both, you know, your success and challenges in engaging with families.
Okay, I can go. So I am a history teacher at the high school, and I teach U.S. history and AP U.S. history. The story that I wanted to share with you, actually, it's about a few students. It's something that happened in my AP classes. The workload is pretty heavy, and some students about 2 or 3, 4 weeks into remote learning, they hadn't done much at all. And I had been trying to reach them. I had reminders, so I sent them messages. I was checking in on them. Then I realized that I had to call them. So I called them and I spoke with them. And this happened to 3 students. And they were embarrassed. They said, "Miss, we missed so much and we don't know how to catch up. And we feel like, we feel embarrassed that we've been gone." And they didn't say exactly the same thing, but to that similar response, they had a similar response. And I said, I spoke with them and I said, "Don't worry." And I think I made it clear to them that it was very difficult for all of us. One of them actually had been working full-time at Market Basket, and she couldn't do the work. And I said, eventually they all had to do 60%. And I said, just do a little bit at a time. I will help you. I'll be here to answer questions. Just get in. I think it ended up being, I don't know how many assignments they had to get in out of all of them. And the success came that I spoke with them and they were reluctant. They were like, oh, try. And then I called them back and I said, I see that you turned in one assignment. Can you do two? I'm so happy that you do it. So every time they turned one in, I would communicate with them how proud I was of them. And eventually they all passed. So 3 students turned in everything. They were able to pass. And I called and I told their parents, not only that they had passed, but they had that they were embarrassed at first and they felt that they couldn't catch up and that they were not well equipped and they wanted to give up. And I talked to their parents about their resilience and how that they should be very proud of their children, and the parents are very happy and the kids are very happy. So it was a really success story. And I think I already had very good relationships with these students. So I think that helped, but I think the listening to their voice, because I was doing a lot of texting and I think it's really good. And I think what Mara said, it's very important. It just the WhatsApp message here and there, a little recording. But I think speaking with them and also I shared with them that I was procrastinating, that it was very hard for me to focus. And after the murder of George Floyd, it was very difficult to teach. And I shared them with them as well. And I think I got a lot of response because many students are kind of like either overwhelmed by the news or frozen in time. So it was a success. And I think the hardships are, I think, what most people have been saying, just staying in touch and make sure that they're okay, make sure that we know the amount of work that is not too much or too little to not overwhelm them during such an overwhelming time. And I think it's really important to understand what their circumstances are, not to expect that everybody, I think Kenya said many times, not all families are the same, not expect that everybody is able to do what you want them to do at the same time or at the same rate or in the same way. So thank you.
Thanks, Ada. Amber, what are your thoughts?
Sorry, I had trouble unmuting myself. So I'm Amber Jackson. I also work at the high school. I'm a math teacher and I'm also the high school equity specialist. And there's just 2 pieces I want to point out, and that at the high school level, our students, as they get older, are more autonomous. And so I think a lot of times we fall into the trap of feeling like family engagement is synonymous with student engagement. And I fall into that all the time. And a lot of times we don't necessarily reach out to families unless students are having trouble. And so just thinking about that going forward remotely, one of the things I did in the spring is I started to send out emails, not even necessarily weekly, because it was a lot to process all of the things that were going on, but bi-weekly to families, just to kind of give them a quick update. And even though it was higher level math, it didn't really matter whether or not they understood. I got a lot of responses from parents who I had never heard from, students who had a variety of grades and stuff that I didn't expect to, who were just thankful that I told them what was happening. And especially with their older kids who don't necessarily tell them what's going on. They just kind of chill in their rooms and they're like, I'm good. And so I think that was something for me that was, that really told me I need to do that more. And even after 8 years in this district, I still have more to learn about how to engage parents and not to take for granted that because kids are older, that parents don't want to know things. And so going forward, I'm hoping to, take more advantage of figuring out, okay, email is not the best way, or thinking about language translation services. But I think that's just something I want to point out to high school educators. And then, bringing it back to the presentation that Alicia and Jack gave earlier this week on the piece of, engagement with students is one of the cornerstones, pillars, whatever you want to call it, for these remote practices and, our guidelines of best practices, and thinking about it was easier to do some of the things I was able to do because the relationships have been built during the year. And so really being mindful about how we're going to do that and intentional about how we're going to do that in this remote setting with students, I think is still really important. And so, surveys and ways for students to tell you about themselves and giving them time to actually connect with you, I think is something that's super important. And we started every class with just a check-in. And this summer I got to do the calculus project, which is for Rising 7 through currently Rising 11. And, you know, aside from pre-teaching the content, we spent a lot of time just checking in, and that makes a big difference. And there were times that I, you know, could ask kids privately, like, what other languages do you speak? And you know, what's some fun facts about you that you want me to know? Things like that, but also some more, you know, pressing things like, what's the home environment looking like? Do you feel comfortable turning on your camera? And giving them a place to privately answer that stuff so that you're not finding out about it when it gets uncomfortable for them, because by that point it's too late. And so I think just thinking about those two pieces, really just how we're going to intentionally engage students, but also not forgetting their parents, even though they're older, are the things I really learned and want to point out.
Thank you both. That was really, really helpful. Also, we will hear from, I think it's great that we're learning from the summer programs, and we'll hear from another summer program in just a minute, but I wanted to turn it to some school liaisons. So we have Heidi and Thelma with us, and I would love for you both to kind of share your experiences, both working with families and connecting with educators in a couple of minutes, please.
Hi, my name is Heidi Castro. I'm the family liaison at the Healy School. Been there for almost 6 years. One of the challenges that we had during all this remote learning was have the family, sometimes the kids would tell the parents that they were actually connected to the classroom or whatever was happening during the time. And just making that phone call to the parents, say, your child hasn't connected, and they're like, well, they say they do connect. So one of the stories I had was with this, what happened was that the parent did think that the child was connected and the parent was actually at home, and the child would go to their bedroom. And I know when I called the parent and I told the classroom was in session, they haven't connected, the parent was able to get the child connected. And she's like, thank you for letting me know, because I really thought that my child was being in the classroom and my child was actually playing Minecraft or Roblox and was not doing what she was supposed to be doing. So what we did was every single time that there was going to be a classroom, I will send her a text, I would send her a voicemail in her WhatsApp, and she'll actually make sure that her child was connected to the classroom, and we'll have the child sit in the kitchen with her to make sure that she was really enrolled, like participating in the classroom. So that's one of the challenges that I did see a lot during the time that we start with the remote learning. And also knowing them, the parent family, knowing that as a liaison, we're here to help with the basic needs with food, diapers, any services that the city or the schools does provide for them. And some of these families thought that the last day of the meals at the schools was going to be right on when school was supposed to finish, and they thought that during the summer there was not going to be any meals, and they were actually excited to know, no, we're still going to be here Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So they knew that the liaisons were still available, and that even the staff knew also. And it's nice to know that we work together with the staff, with the school, and with the families, and the liaisons are here to help in anything that we can do for them.
Hi, my name is Thelma. I'm the family liaison at Agesiano School. And we know this time is challenge, but I believe we reinforce the bond with the families during the pandemic. How I first listen to the families and their needs, their expectations, let them know that they are not alone. We are here to help them. Another critical point, it was clear and frequent communication. We liaisons, we gave our cell phone numbers to the families, and it's not all families that prefer email as primary way of communication. And for those families who start to use more text, And I use this tool to filter the information for them. And it worked very well. They are comfortable with the phones. If they need to send me a document, they can scan, they can take a picture. We still have face-to-face interactions using video calls. And also, because they are at their home, in the comfort environment, I feel they are more willing to share information with us. I have been getting good results, and I'm very positive about that.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And y'all are getting a lot of shout outs too for the support that you do with the educators and family connection. So thank you both for sharing that. Okay, so we have a few more folks that we want to hop around, and then if I forgot somebody, please let me know. But we're gonna turn it over to Julie and Sam, who are gonna also share your experiences, successes, and challenge, and can talk really from a more recent perspective in the work that you did with SPELL this summer.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm Julie Allen. I was the director of the elementary SPELL program. And I'm going to echo some of the sentiments from the other speakers, but I think, as y'all know, building these relationships with families is predicated on trust and also predicated on having a team. That was something that was super successful during SPELL. We had the investment from the ESL department on having a team that could contact families. So there were liaisons, counselors. It wasn't incumbent on each teacher to connect each family. And I hope that's something that the district can continue to put a commitment towards, that sort of group effort, because as we know, some families connect better with some people than with different people. And it can't just be on a teacher to be texting families individually to get them to connect. Which leads me to the second thing I want to say is that we have to stop making assumptions about how we contact families and also about what they need. There was a family, I dropped off a Chromebook at their house, and I was like, sweet, they're going to be connected. This is great. The next day, the little girl was still on her mom's iPhone for her Zoom call because the mom didn't know how to connect to Google Classroom or Zoom. So again, I was making this assumption that the barrier was the lack of technology, but I didn't ask the family, like, how else can I support you? The third thing, just really quickly, is we're asking families to be extremely vulnerable. We're asking them to welcome us into their homes. So we need to be super careful about that and build those relationships and trust before we ask them to do something like put on their screen, before we tell them, don't eat snack while you're in a Zoom call. Those are our assumptions. Those are things that we maybe were told when we were in school. This is not the setting for that. We really need to be more inclusive and more caring and loving with our families. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Go ahead, Sam. I just had to do a little affirming. Yes, continue, Sam.
Thank you. My name is Sam Blomberg, and I'm an ESL teacher at the high school. I was also a part of the SPELL program, which is summer programming specifically for English language learners. I wanted to highlight two things, primarily where the successes came from, and I believe that boils down to effort. Like Julie mentioned, it is the effort of the teachers, the counselors, the families, the students, and the program directors to truly align and build that community within our program. And as a cause of that, we saw excellent participation, engagement, and strides academically and socio-emotionally. Overall, from what I saw, I was just completely floored. I also want to point out that there was a struggle, and that struggle continues, and the name of that struggle is access. Many of our English language students who we were in regular contact throughout the month received ineffective hotspots, only one computer for a 3-student family, or not reliable Wi-Fi. I want to thank our whole team for working our best to mitigate these problems, but many of them still weren't addressed, and this needs to be a serious initiative during the school year. Yes, we were able to help our economically disadvantaged and marginalized students get food, diapers, housing, and Chromebooks, but where is the Wi-Fi? How can we be equitably communicating if we're relying on our own students' data plans? Overall, I was greatly encouraged by what I experienced, and I have high hopes for this remote journey. I think you all should too. In order for it to work, we have to keep that effort up and solve the access problem before the opportunity gap widens any further. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sam. Thank you for that. And a lot of great points, especially around the team working together, which is going to bring us to Jen and Aisha, who I heard feedback from people, and I didn't share this with you, about how great it was to be, you know, a parent receiving the feedback really collaborative from both of you. And so I'm really excited to hear from both of you about your successes and challenges.
Okay, you want to start, Jen?
Go ahead.
Like I was waiting for you. Hi, I'm Aisha Banda. I teach 6th grade ELA and social studies at the Argenziano. Jen and I are grade partners. And thank you, Jess, for that feedback. Jen and I were very purposeful this spring in how we shared and disseminated information with our students and our parents especially. You guys know middle grade students, you know, are apt to try to get one over, not all, but a good portion of them. So it was super important for us to relate to parents what exactly our expectations were on a weekly and even a daily schedule. Jen and I, you know, started out, you know, just sending out emails, but we quickly realized that there were a number of emails coming at parents from all different places constantly, right? And that got overwhelming pretty quickly. So through some guidance, we decided to create a weekly schedule. And the schedule went out in 3 different languages, Portuguese, Spanish, as well as English. And on these schedules, we detailed for students and for families what the daily expectation was for students, right? We broke down, you know, what classes they were expected to attend. We provided, you know, what links they would need, what the assignments were for the day, due dates, right, for longer term or more extended assignments, and just made sure, you know, that families had the resources that they needed in order to be able to access this information. And also that they had the ability to support students in accessing, and not just like physically accessing the documents, but also the work itself, right? Jen and I spent many evenings on one-on-one Zoom calls with families, right? Working through how to navigate our learning management systems, right? How to open up a document, how to save documents, how to submit documents. And these were things that we had done in the class with our students, right? So our students should have been fairly familiar with these processes, but having the opportunity to be able to sit and walk parents through, right, really kind of mitigated any of that tension that would arise at home, right? Like often does with parents and middle grade students, right? Around schoolwork or homework, right? So allowing parents to be able, you know, to say to their student, like, no, actually, I know that this is due on this day, right? I didn't see that you uploaded, you know, a assignment where it was supposed to be. Really helped parents to hold students accountable in our working process. Jen, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I mean, everything you said, of course. And it just made me think of one time when a parent had emailed me in like utter frustration that something wouldn't load, they couldn't access it. And I kind of like, okay, let me call you, and had to sort of talk the parent down. Like she was freaking out, her kid was crying, like everyone. And this was like early in the pandemic. And I'm like, I'm right there with you. We're all freaking out, but you know, we'll get through it. And we did, and she figured it out. And I think, you know, it's what everybody's been saying, making those connections, making it personal, and building those relationships and the trust to know that like we're all in it together, and we'll make it happen.
Right, and building off of that social emotional piece, right? So a lot of what we did was academic based, but then there was a fair amount, right, of conversations that we had with our students and with families, right, around social emotional support. Right? Some of those evening calls, some of those evening Zoom calls, right, were, with a student and a parent one-on-one, right, just kind of talking about the challenge of no longer sharing the space with them. Right? No longer being able, to sit with their classmates and socialize, and just how different, right, the learning experience was, and how that was really, that in and of itself was really overwhelming for some of our students, right?
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you all. I really want to jump in now because just to really say appreciation to Jess for leading this panel, and to every one of the educators that's on the panel. It's so important to hear how you've worked through these challenges and found the connections, the relationships. A lot of it reminded me of the frame that we put forth of the relationships, resources, and response. So thank you so much. I do want to go back to the screen share so that we can complete this workshop. We've got another team of teachers and tech folks that are going to actually share some specific tools that educators can use, so we can set up and make sure that last hour of our work today around family engagement, people have the tools that they need. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Really wonderful information, and I know that you will be available for more conversation with your colleagues. So I'm going to go back to screen share. As the team of teachers will lead us through some specific tools. This is an overview slide of the tools that we're going to present. Sam, are you able to just give a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about?
Sure, yeah. Let's see. So what we have here are a couple of the tools that many of us educators have been using in order to reach out to families. And if you notice, as far as parent and student communications go, almost all of these have it. But the one I really want to highlight in spades is Talking Points. It has the communications 2 ways, the ability to post assignments, send reminders, and share images. Google Classroom, ClassDojo, and Seesaw, I'm sure you've seen a lot of different PDs about those recently and how to keep your students engaged. But as far as family engagement goes, all of these tools are going to be extra valuable this year. As we know, our students have emails this year, so that's going to be great if you want to communicate with the student. However, as far as engaging the families, I highly recommend Talking Points, and I'll talk about that on the following slide. So just a couple of best practices. Go through your school principal to get the multilingual guide and the form to get translations when possible. Less is more. And by that, I mean, at the beginning of each week, that's when the communication should be sent, and right before sessions in classes, so it's at the top of the email. Be consistent with the time in which you send things and align. That's what we were talking about, Julie and myself, making sure your info is accurate and that you're communicating about communication so that you know what students can expect to get. So this is my favorite tool. It's called Talking Points. The reason it's so effective is because it's accessible. It does not require an app download for students or parents. So it just comes to their phone as a text message. You can send messages and announcements to small groups, to the whole class, however you like, individually. And you only receive messages in your own app. So it makes your life easier. It makes their lives easier. It has low incidence languages for translation purposes. And it's ultimate when it comes to sharing links and getting students to come to your classes. Also fielding questions individually, referring students, and so forth. Google Classroom, and I know we've gone more in depth in PDs and will continue to, but for a communication standpoint, you can send messages to all students or a few students. You can send announcements if you're having some kind of virtual event that does not fit within your normal schedule. You can leave specific feedback on assignments. If you comment at the Students 111, that'll pop up in their new email, plus they'll get to see it on their stream. You can message about specific assignments publicly or privately. And you can use parent emails to provide summaries. This year, students have emails associated with their 111 K-12 account, and I truly believe that will help the work-life balance of students. You know, they get to actually use their phones for their own personal communication or their own emails for whoever they're communicating with back home and whatnot. And also you can send out announcements, links to things, messages, just the same way you would in the Google Classroom. I will say that Outlook might be a brand new thing, so this might be something you have to explicitly communicate with students on how to sign in, just like they will on their Google accounts. But you know, Outlook's a bit trickier. And I think the name of the game with a lot of this is patience. Take the first couple of weeks to really make sure everybody is on board at once. Make sure that access is available for everybody, and then start moving forward the content and everything you actually want to teach, because we do not want anybody else slipping through the cracks. And this additional technology creates a larger bandwidth, but it also means that our eyes are looking at a lot more potential cracks.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Schroeder, and I'm going to share a little bit about Seesaw. So one of the things that I think is great about it is it's everything in one place. By that, I mean your parents can see the work that the student is completing. They can see the comments that the teacher is sharing, and they can also communicate with you all in one place. And the same thing on the teacher end. So teachers can communicate with parents, share work and comments, and also talk about other things that might need to happen, like family meetings and other things in the same exact place. There are 55 languages available for translation, which I think is really fantastic and opens up the connectivity even more. I also love that you can connect up to 10 family members. I know that in our school, we've been talking about siblings who might be supporting other students. And so being able to have other family members connected, you know, maybe even the parents want grandma or grandpa to be connected and see what the child is doing in class. And that brings me to my final point, which is, you know, in the video, we saw parents talking about that disconnect with what's going on in school. The really cool thing about Seesaw is it allows you to not only send parents messages, but also allows them to see everything that's going on in the classroom. I will put the massive asterisk there that they see what their child is doing. They don't see what other students in the classroom are doing. And you can connect via email, text message, or app. So it's a really great, simple tool for families and teachers.
Hi everyone, my name is Ting Ting Han. I teach first grade at the Winter Hill, and very similarly to Seesaw, ClassDojo is also a great one and done tool for families to kind of connect to the school and have their students turn in work and get a connection to what's going on in the classroom. So in ClassDojo, there are two different ways that a family can connect with the school and the teacher. In ClassDojo, there's a class story feature where where teachers are able to share photos, videos, and files with the students and families to update them on what's happening in the class. Teachers will also get read receipts, so you will know if a parent has read the announcement or not. Just like Seesaw, translations are also available in ClassDojo as well. And just like Google Classroom in ClassStory and ClassDojo, you can create classroom events if there's something out of the ordinary happening outside of the regular weekly schedule. In addition, Class Dojo also allows personal messages and private messages between the teacher and parent. Again, translations are available. You also get read receipts, so you know when a parent has viewed the message. In addition, you can pre-schedule a message. So if you think of something at 6 o'clock at night and you want to send it, but you don't want to bother the family, you can schedule it for the next morning. If you just have a message, a file, or a photo you want to send to an individual parent or family, you can send it through the private messages. And I know we're trying to work through being open and having that two-way communication with families, but we also want to remember to have a homeschool life balance for ourselves as well. So in Class Dojo messages, you are able to set up quiet hours, and it'll ping the family if they send you a message saying, hey, it's quiet hours right now, the teacher will get back to you in the morning.
So thank you to the educators that have shared some tools that have been really helpful. We hope that you do explore them. I just wanted to share an additional one. The purpose of this one is not a two-way exchange or communication, but if there ever is any information that you are presenting, you may know already that PowerPoint, a simple PowerPoint slide presentation, has a dictate option. And if you click on the dictate icon, and you can choose a language from the drop down, which will take your voice and type a translation right onto the PowerPoint slide as people are watching. If you use this tool, just be careful to use simple, clear language, and remember to chunk your information so that the PowerPoint tool can hear your voice and translate in real time. It's a really kind of amazing thing to watch. Again, it's for one-way communication, not the kind of exchange that the other tools provide. So I want to thank everybody, thank all of our presenters, educators, liaisons. What a team effort that this has been. And now it's time for you to take all of this in. Do please take a break, but you have an hour now from 10:30 to 11:30 to work on your own or with a partner to start doing your family engagement planning. Here's an additional set of resources that have been curated by us. Karen did email the link to the slide presentation, so you have the slide presentation and all the links that are there. Also want to let you know that we have SFLC office hours set up for the next hour. So if you want to sign in, the Zoom link is here on this slide, the last slide of the presentation. We will have breakout rooms if you would like to speak to the family liaisons, if you would like to speak to Maura about multilingual services, or if you would like to connect with Francia around basic needs and other resources to families, please take advantage of that. If not at this hour, at another time. And we just really want to thank you all for your attention and look forward to our continued collaboration around building authentic family engagement through relationships, resources, and response. Thank you, everybody.